It wasn't the heat of the coffee that made her flinch. It was the silence that followed. No gasp. No apology. Just the quiet hiss of hot liquid soaking into her blouse and the distant clink of a spoon against porcelain, like the world hadn't just watched a man in uniform humiliate someone who looked like someone they loved. Her blouse was beige, so it darkened quickly. The coffee trickled down her chest, but she didn't scream, didn't speak, didn't even move. She just looked at him. Not in anger. Not in fear. In recognition. Like she'd seen him before, not his face, but his type. And across the cafe, a teenage boy with a camera caught everything. The moment. The stain. The badge number. And what happened next would go far beyond coffee, beyond bruised egos or viral videos. Because the woman in the soaked blouse had raised the one man who'd changed the entire department. She didn't yell. But justice did. The Morning Brew Cafe sat on the corner of Willow and 12th, a narrow little building with sun-washed windows and the smell of cinnamon scones baked into its walls. It was the kind of place regulars didn't just drink coffee, they claimed tables. The second booth on the left, near the window, belonged to her. Every Wednesday at 8:15 sharp, she'd arrive in quiet gray sneakers, a floral scarf tucked neatly into her coat, and a notebook under her arm. She never ordered anything fancy. Just black coffee, 1 sugar, no cream. Sat quietly, but sometimes smiled at the barista. She rarely spoke. That was Gloria. 64. Widow. Grandmother of 4. Retired special education teacher. The kind of woman who mailed birthday cards on time and pressed flowers between the pages of cookbooks. If you'd asked most folks in town about her, they'd say she was sweet. Quiet. And that morning, when she stepped inside the cafe and nodded politely to the morning crew, no one thought anything of it. Until the cop walked in. Deputy Chad Rollins wasn't new to Ridgeway. He grew up 3 towns over, played football at Eastmore High, and joined the sheriff's department straight after failing out of state college. He walked like he owned every room he entered, smiled like he wanted you to know it was fake, and wore his badge like it came with a throne. He liked things in order. And today, the second booth by the window wasn't empty. He stared at her. She smiled, politely, moved her coffee slightly to give him room to pass. But he didn't want to pass. He wanted the seat. You mind moving, ma'am? Gloria blinked. Pardon? I always sit there. I've been sitting here every Wednesday for 3 years. Rollins squinted at her, then glanced around the cafe. The barista had frozen. 2 teenagers near the pastry counter leaned in. He didn't like witnesses. So he smiled. One of those tight-lipped, performative grins. Guess it's time someone reminded you how things work around here. And before anyone could react, before anyone realized this wasn't a joke, he took her coffee, tilted it, and poured it slowly down the front of her blouse. The cafe erupted. Not in shouts. In silence. It was too loud for yelling. Too cruel for noise. And Gloria? She didn't scream. Didn't fight. Didn't cry. She simply looked at him. Looked through him. Then she stood. Wiped her hands. And said, softly, "You've made a mistake." Rollins laughed. "Oh yeah? What are you gonna do, call your son?" "I won't need to," she said, placing her napkin gently on the table. Behind her, a teenage boy lifted his phone higher. He wasn't filming before. But now he didn't blink. Because just over the doorway, on the cafe's community bulletin board, was a photo. A man in uniform. Ridgeway's new police chief. A black man. Named Marcus D. Hall. And the caption underneath the welcome letter read, "Proudly raised by Gloria Hall." The silence inside the Morning Brew Cafe was thick, but it didn't last. Because while no one shouted in the moment, the world outside was about to erupt. The video started with a shaky frame. You could hear silverware clinking, a soft gospel tune from the cafe's old radio, and the voice of a teenage boy whispering, "Yo, is he serious right now?" 38 seconds. That's all it took. The footage captured it all. The moment Deputy Chad Rollins poured scalding coffee down the front of a 64-year-old woman's blouse. The way she didn't flinch. The camera panning to a community bulletin board behind her, showing the framed photo of Ridgeway's new police chief, Marcus D. Hall, captioned, Proudly raised by Gloria Hall. By 9:43 a.m., it was on Facebook. By 10:12, Twitter. By 11:03, it was trending nationwide. Hashtag Coffee Cop wasn't just a hashtag, it became a symbol of the everyday violence that too often goes unseen, of power wielded without consequence, and of a quiet woman who never raised her voice, but somehow spoke louder than anyone else in the room. Within 3 hours, the video had hit 2.7 million views. News outlets scrambled to confirm details. Unidentified woman assaulted in Ridgeway Cafe. Was this racially motivated? Is this the mother of the town's police chief? The Ridgeway Police Department's social media pages were flooded. No statements. No denial. No apology. But the silence spoke volumes. The department's voicemail box filled by noon. Emails stacked by the hundreds. And in a downtown corner office, Chief Marcus Hall was watching it all unfold. He hadn't seen the video until an aide burst into his weekly strategic meeting, phone shaking in her hands. He watched it once. That was enough. He stood. Didn't say a word. Just walked out of the room with his badge on his chest and fury buried deep beneath a layer of restraint. By the time he reached the station, the media had already begun gathering outside. Reporters were camped in vans across from the building. Local activists had posted a 3 p.m. call to action. Show up. Speak up. Stand for Gloria. Inside, officers moved awkwardly. Conversations died when Marcus passed. No one made eye contact. He didn't need a press briefing. Didn't need a podium. He walked straight into the briefing room and called for Deputy Rollins. Rollins arrived chewing gum, half smiling, oblivious. Something about a form I missed? He said as he stepped into the room. Marcus didn't look up from the printout in his hands. Sit. The door clicked shut behind him. A long pause followed. Then Marcus spoke, voice level, calm, and edged with something colder than rage. You poured coffee on a woman this morning. Rollins blinked. Sir? She's 64. Retired teacher. Mother of the chief of police. Silence. I didn't know, Rollins stammered. No. You didn't. Marcus stood slowly. But the fact that you didn't recognize her? That's not the problem. The problem is, you didn't think she mattered. I thought she was just... You thought she was just another nobody, Marcus finished for him. Just another black woman in your way. Rollins opened his mouth, but Marcus raised a hand. She didn't raise her voice, Chad. She didn't curse you. She didn't fight back. But the world heard her anyway. He picked up a printed still from the video. Gloria's face, dignified, drenched and utterly silent, stared back. Marcus dropped it on the table. You need to leave. Effective immediately. Rollins' face drained. Are you firing me? No, Marcus said. I'm putting you on administrative leave pending investigation. Internal affairs will be in touch. But let me make this clear, this badge, he tapped his own chest, doesn't protect cowards who hide behind it. By 4 p.m., hashtag Gloria Hall was trending on TikTok. Artists posted sketches of her in front of the cafe window. Writers shared poems. Teachers wrote about their own mothers, their own silences. It was no longer about just one cop. It was about every moment like this one that had passed unnoticed. By 6 p.m., a national outlet picked up the story. Black woman assaulted by local cop. Turns out she raised the town's police chief. The news anchor's voice was heavy with disbelief. I'm not sure what's more shocking, she said, the assault, or the quiet grace with which Gloria Hall responded. At 7:15 p.m., Chief Marcus Hall stepped in front of a single microphone outside the Ridgeway station. He didn't speak from notes. Didn't read a script. My name is Marcus Hall. I serve this town as police chief, and I was raised by the woman you all saw in that video. He paused. The crowd was silent. She didn't ask for attention. She didn't raise her voice. But what was done to her was a disgrace. Not just to her. Not just to me. To this town. He looked into the cameras. To anyone watching, this isn't just about one cop. It's about a system that lets small violences go unchecked until they're caught on tape. His voice didn't shake, but his hand, curled at his side, trembled slightly. I will not allow this department to become a place where cruelty hides behind the badge. He stepped back. The press shouted questions. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. Because the story wasn't over. It was just getting started. The sun hadn't yet broken over the Ridgeway skyline when the clip passed its 5 millionth view. A teenager in Atlanta posted a duet, narrating it with tears in her eyes. A mother in Oakland wrote a thread. My son is 6. If someone ever, a pastor in Tulsa shared it with the caption, we all know a Gloria. But inside Ridgeway's police department, silence ruled. Phones rang. Reporters circled. But within those walls? It was the kind of quiet that follows an earthquake, when everyone's too stunned to speak, waiting to see what breaks next. Chief Marcus Hall sat behind his desk, scrolling through the comments. Some supportive. Some hateful. Many stunned. How is this still happening? Protect black women. If she wasn't his mother, would we care? He clicked through emails. Inquiries. Demands. Threats. His mother hadn't left her house. She hadn't answered her phone. The paramedic said she was physically fine. But she hadn't spoken since Marcus took her home. And that scared him more than anything else. At 8 a.m. sharp, a line of Ridgeway residents formed outside the station. They weren't holding signs. Not yet. They were holding space. Elders. Mothers. College students. Church deacons. Local business owners. Some carried cups of coffee, symbolic, deliberate. At 9:13, an organizer arrived with a speaker and a small folding podium. She was young, maybe 25, in denim and an oversized tee that read, My dignity is not negotiable. By 9:30, there were more than 100 people. No one chanted. They just stood, quietly, refusing to look away. Inside, Marcus addressed his senior officers. I want full cooperation with internal affairs. Anyone who tries to interfere, even subtly, will be placed on immediate suspension. A few officers nodded. One looked away. Another clenched her jaw. Some of you have served this town longer than I have. Some of you trained me. But if you think that buys you a pass. He stopped. You're wrong. He passed around a copy of the official complaint. I've initiated an external audit. We'll review all use of force incidents, past civilian complaints, and unresolved files. Every one. Someone exhaled loudly. It sounded like disbelief. I didn't ask for your opinion, Marcus said, locking eyes with the officer. I'm giving you facts. And here's another. If we don't clean this house, someone else will. By noon, the mayor requested a closed-door meeting. Mayor Harrow was a seasoned politician, the kind who wore smiles like armor and spoke in paragraphs. Marcus, he began, I think we can all agree this has gotten out of hand. Marcus didn't smile. This got out of hand when a woman was assaulted in broad daylight. Look, the optics. The optics. Marcus leaned forward. You mean the truth caught on camera? The mayor sighed. You're emotional. I'm aware, Marcus replied. Which is more than I can say for half this town. There was a pause. We need to get ahead of this, the mayor finally said. Control the story. Marcus folded his hands. You can spin this however you want. But I'm not softening what happened to my mother. You're not thinking long-term. I am thinking long-term. I'm thinking about the next woman who walks into a public space and wonders if she's safe. I'm thinking about the son who won't be able to protect her. The mayor's mouth twitched. You're going to make enemies. Marcus stood. Then let them show their faces. Across town, Gloria Hall sat in her living room, hands folded in her lap. The coffee stain had been scrubbed out of the blouse, but she hadn't changed clothes. Her eyes were dry. Her jaw set. Her mind somewhere between memory and present. Her neighbor, Mrs. Whitaker, brought her a pot of tea. Heard about what happened, the older woman said, sitting beside her. Wanted to see how you were doing. Gloria nodded faintly. Mrs. Whitaker leaned in, voice soft. You remember that summer after the march on Selma? When your Marcus was still learning to walk? Gloria blinked. I do. You said then, he's gonna walk through fire one day. Gloria looked up. And now he is. At 2:45 p.m., an anonymous email arrived in Marcus' inbox. Subject: Coffee Cop's History. No body text. Just attachments. 3 civilian complaints. 2 internal memos marked, no further action. 1 report, never filed, from a former trainee who witnessed Rollins yell at an elderly Latino man during a traffic stop, then lie on the citation. Marcus printed them all. Then he called Internal Affairs. Reopen everything, he said. Start with these. And put a red flag next to Rollins' name. At 5 p.m., Marcus stood before the media again. My name is Marcus Hall. I am the son of Gloria Hall. And I am not here to save face. Cameras clicked. I'm here to tell you this is not a moment. It's a reckoning. He lifted a folder. These are complaints that were ignored. Dismissed. Buried. That ends now. He looked straight into the camera. If you're watching this thinking this only matters because she was my mother, ask yourself what it says about the world when justice only arrives with a badge. He paused. My mother taught me to speak the truth, even when my voice shakes, even when it costs me something. So here it is. We failed her. We failed this community. And I will not stop until we fix it. As dusk settled over Ridgeway, protesters lit candles. Children passed out flyers that read, Say her name, Gloria Hall. Across the cafe window, someone had written in chalk. She didn't need to raise her voice, because the world finally did it for her. At 7 a.m., Marcus Hall unlocked the department's basement archives. The smell hit him first, old paper, dust, and something else, the scent of neglect. The room was dimly lit, the barred windows filtering in early morning light like hesitant hope. Rows of rusting file cabinets stretched across the concrete floor. Some were dented. Some were labeled in fading marker. Most hadn't been touched in years. He ran a hand along the metal, his fingers trailing years of institutional silence. This is where it lived. Not just paperwork. Not just complaints. But the truth, ignored, shelved, buried. He opened the first drawer. The metal groaned like it was waking from a long sleep. Inside, a stack of manila folders. Each one a story. And no more excuses. By 9 a.m., Internal Affairs had set up temporary desks in the archives. Laptops, portable scanners, boxes of highlighters, and bins to separate reviewed from flagged. Their task? Massive. 10 years of complaints. Thousands of documents. Memos, witness statements, reports marked inconclusive. Officer Janine Morris arrived with black coffee and a clipboard nearly buckling under its own weight. We're looking at over 200 unresolved complaints, she said, not hiding her exhaustion. A third of them never even got reviewed past initial intake. Marcus set his jaw. Start sorting by officer. Anything with patterns goes to the top. Within 2 hours, 23 cases were flagged. 7 involved the same 2 officers. 3 were against supervisors who'd signed their own complaint dismissals. The rot wasn't hidden anymore. It was mapped. By midday, the shift was more than metaphorical. 2 officers submitted resignation letters. 4 others requested early retirement. 2 called in sick. And 1, a sergeant, stood in the hallway muttering about witch hunts and political correctness. But Marcus didn't flinch. This isn't a witch hunt, he said aloud, not just for the sergeant, but for everyone within earshot. It's a truth hunt. And we've ignored it long enough. Word traveled quickly. Officers started whispering in corners. Some were afraid. Some were angry. But a few were hopeful. Like Officer Reynolds, who stopped Marcus on his way upstairs. You know they're gonna fight this. I know. But you're still doing it? Marcus looked him in the eye. Especially because of that. That afternoon, Gloria Hall sat by her window, watching the world go by in quiet pieces. Her hands rested in her lap. The lavender dress she wore was ironed, her hair softly pinned. But something behind her eyes was distant. The doorbell rang. Her neighbor answered and returned with a young girl in braids, holding a small bouquet of daisies. Mrs. Hall, the girl said gently. My name's Jada. I'm the one who filmed what happened to you. Gloria looked at her. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she patted the seat beside her. Jada sat, nervously twisting the stems in her hand. I didn't mean to go viral. I wasn't trying to be famous. I just couldn't not do something. Gloria gave a faint smile. You did something brave, she said. You gave the truth a witness. Tears welled in Jada's eyes. You changed everything, she whispered. Gloria didn't respond with words. She just reached over and squeezed the girl's hand. That evening, Marcus got a phone call. It was Sergeant Calhoun. Retired. Decorated. 30 years on the force. I saw the news, he said. And we need to talk. They met at the old diner on Maple Street. Calhoun was already nursing a cup of black coffee when Marcus slid into the booth. You're digging through bones, son, Calhoun said. And some of those bones belong to men people still call heroes. Marcus nodded. I know. But you're still going to do it? I have to. Calhoun sighed. I was there when some of those files got closed without review. I didn't fight hard enough. And for that I'm sorry. He slid a folded envelope across the table. Names. Incidents. My notes. Use them. Clean house before the termites collapse the whole damn structure. Marcus nodded. Thank you. Calhoun stood slowly. You'll make enemies, Marcus. Powerful ones. Ones that smile in public and plot in private. Then they can watch me clean their mess. At 10 p.m., Marcus sat with Lieutenant Diane Cole. Stacks of files. Internal tips. Calhoun's notes. Patterns connecting dots no one wanted connected. 7 names stood out. 7 officers. All currently active. All with repeated complaints, excessive force, racial bias, verbal misconduct. Cole looked exhausted. All 7. Marcus nodded. Every last one. You know some of them are close with the union rep. I'm not here to protect relationships. I'm here to protect the public. She stood. Then I'll draft the suspension notices. He watched her leave, then turned back to the files. It wasn't just paper anymore. It was proof. And it was about to see daylight. Across Ridgeway, the mood had shifted. Talk shows debated the story. Hashtags trended again. Downtown, the protest lines grew longer. Quite determined. And in homes like Gloria's and barbershops and classrooms, one question echoed. What else are they hiding? At his window, Marcus watched the city lights flicker against the quiet streets. Change wasn't coming. It had arrived. And he wasn't stepping off the tracks. The morning after the audit notices were sent, Ridgeway Police Headquarters felt like a battlefield without bullets. Marcus arrived at 6:45 a.m. The building was still dark, the fluorescent lights in the hallway flickering to life one by one as he passed. Silence clung to the walls like static. No greetings. No small talk. Just glances, sharp, cautious, suspicious. He walked to his office and shut the door behind him. By 7:10 a.m., the resistance began. Lieutenant Diane Cole entered with a manila folder tucked under her arm. 3 of the suspended officers have retained lawyers. 2 called the union. 1 just walked out. Marcus sat behind his desk, hands clasped. Let them lawyer up. Cole opened the folder. You should see this. Inside were screenshots, internal chats, message threads from departmental Slack channels. Passive-aggressive memes. Sarcastic jabs. One comment read, "Guess we're in the business of witch hunts now." Another said, "Hope the chief enjoys his new fan club. Let's see how long it lasts." Internal morale is tanking, Cole said quietly. Marcus didn't look up. Morale built on silence deserves to fall. At the morning briefing, officers gathered like it was a funeral. The room smelled like burnt coffee and tension. Marcus stood at the front, eyes sweeping across the room. Half the faces avoided his gaze. "I know some of you are angry," he began. "I know some of you think this is personal. It's not." He let that land. "It's not about grudges. It's about trust. And if we lose that, we're not a department. We're a gang with uniforms." A few officers nodded. One stood. Sergeant Andy Blair. 10 years in. Known for being blunt. "I've been with this force a long time, Chief. I've seen bad days. But this." He gestured around the room. This feels like we're tearing each other apart. We're not, Marcus replied. We're finally cleaning up. Blair scoffed. You're making good officers afraid to speak. Marcus didn't flinch. Then maybe they need to listen first. By noon, the mayor called. Marcus, she said. I'm getting calls. From business owners. From donors. I expected that. You need to get out in front of this. Talk to the press. Reassure the public. Marcus rubbed his temples. What do you want me to say? That this department is stable. It's not, he said plainly. Not yet. Then find a way to make it sound like it is. He didn't reply. That afternoon, a local news crew appeared in the lobby. Can we get a comment, Chief Hall? He paused on the stairs. One, he said. We are not afraid of transparency. And if you think accountability is the enemy of policing, maybe you've misunderstood the badge. Then he walked away. After sunset, Marcus returned to his car. The lot was mostly empty. But someone had keyed the word, traitor, into his driver's side door. He stared at it for a long time. Then he reached into the trunk, pulled out a rag and a bottle of polish, and began wiping it away. Officer Reynolds saw him from the back entrance. Sir? Marcus didn't stop scrubbing. Sometimes, he said, you fix the damage. Even if you didn't cause it. Reynolds walked over. You don't deserve this. No, Marcus said, looking up. But if this is the cost of doing the right thing, I'll pay it. The next day, a letter was sent to every major news outlet in Ridgeway. An open statement from the police union. It accused Marcus of creating a hostile work environment, of targeting respected officers without cause, and of bowing to political pressure at the cost of departmental morale. The story ran on local headlines. Chief under fire from within. Talk radio lit up with callers. He's trying to make it all about race. This is about law and order, not feelings. He's punishing good cops just to look good. Marcus watched it all unfold in silence. He didn't issue a counterstatement. He didn't tweet. He just kept working. In the middle of the storm, Gloria Hall made a rare appearance. She joined Marcus at a small community meeting downtown. Nothing formal. Just folding chairs in a church basement. People came, teachers, parents, students, store clerks, barbers. Gloria sat silently, listening. And when someone asked, "Do you think anything's really going to change?" she spoke. I was humiliated in a place where I thought I'd be safe. But what came after? This part right here? This is the beginning of change. Not because it's loud, but because people are finally listening. The room fell quiet. Then someone clapped. Then another. And for the first time in weeks, Marcus felt something besides pressure. He felt momentum. By Friday, the union was pushing for a formal vote of no confidence. Marcus received a tip from Officer Morris. They're counting heads, she said. If they get a majority, they'll take it to the council. Marcus nodded. Let them. You don't care. I care. But I'm not scared. That night, he drafted a personal letter. To every officer in the department. It read in part, if holding each other accountable feels like betrayal, then we've forgotten what service means. I will not protect a culture of silence. I will protect this city. With or without your permission. Some officers refused to show up to roll call. Some went radio silent on patrol. Others whispered about transferring, others joked in code. But a few stood taller. Like Officer Reynolds. Like Morris. Like Janine Cole. They stopped whispering. And they started showing up. In the break room. In the archives. In the streets. Side by side with the community. And suddenly, Marcus wasn't standing alone. He was leading something. Something real. And Ridgeway? Ridgeway was watching. By sunrise, Ridgeway wasn't just waking up, it was bracing for impact. At 6:45 a.m., Chief Marcus Hall stepped out of his office and walked into the early light with a thin manila folder under his arm. The air was cool, the street outside quiet but not still. He walked past the flagpole, past the squad cars in the lot, and pinned a sheet of paper to the public bulletin board just beside the precinct's front door. The title was simple, bold, Impossible to miss. Officers under formal review, Ridgeway Police Department. 7 names. 7 badge numbers. 7 internal cases, date, brief description, current status. And beneath it, a handwritten note from Marcus himself. No justice without truth. No trust without transparency. The door clicked shut behind him. By 7:02 a.m., the first civilian stopped to read it. By 7:11 a.m., a photo of the list was online. By 7:30 a.m., it had over 12,000 shares. And Ridgeway was officially on fire. Inside the department, silence fractured. Officers stared through the glass lobby as a crowd formed. Citizens with phones, signs, coffee cups gripped in shaking hands. Some looked stunned. Others looked angry. One older woman pressed her palm against the bulletin board like it held something sacred. Marcus stood behind the front desk, watching. Lieutenant Cole arrived seconds later, her pace sharp. "Chief, the media's here. Protesters too." "Good. Some officers are threatening to walk out." "Let them," Marcus said calmly. Cole exhaled through her nose. "I've got your back. But you need to know, this just became national. Channel 9. Ridgeway Herald. Even state networks. I'm not hiding from it. I didn't think you would." By mid-morning, the lobby was full, reporters jostling for space beside nervous clerks and stone-faced officers. Everyone was waiting for Marcus to respond. He didn't hold a press conference. He didn't hide, either. Instead, he stepped into the lobby at 9:03 a.m., stood before the cameras and said, "Before you ask, yes, I authorized the list. No, I'm not sorry. And if protecting the people of Ridgeway costs me favor with those who abuse their badge, then so be it." A reporter called out, "Chief Hall, don't you think this undermines officer morale?" Marcus paused. Morale built on silence isn't morale. It's complicity. Another voice, "Is this political?" Marcus leaned into the mic. "It's personal. Because I live here. And I believe in this department. But I believe in justice more." Flashbulbs popped. Phones vibrated. And the message was out. At 11:17 a.m., Sergeant Victor Manley, 12 years on the force, handed in his badge. He didn't do it quietly. He walked out the front door, past the crowd, and said into a waiting microphone, "I didn't sign up to be crucified for paperwork. This isn't policing. It's politics." Someone booed. Someone clapped. Marcus watched through his office window, unblinking. At 2:45 p.m., a courier delivered a certified envelope. The letterhead read, "Ridgeway Police Union." The language was formal, almost surgical. Alleging breach of protocol. Violation of officer privacy. Creation of a hostile work environment. Cole read it over Marcus' shoulder. "They want you to retract the list," she said. He shook his head. "They're threatening a no-confidence vote." He folded the letter in half, set it on the desk. "Then let them vote." Outside, the crowd had doubled. Signs read, "Truth matters. No more hiding. Cops should be accountable too." And then something unexpected happened. A woman in her 60s stepped forward. She carried no sign, just a photo. Her son. "He filed a complaint against one of those officers 3 years ago," she said. "It disappeared. Today I saw his name on that list. Thank you, Chief Hall." Marcus stepped out to meet her. They didn't hug. They didn't shake hands. But something passed between them. Recognition. Resolve. Inside the department, the mood boiled. A captain cursed under his breath. A rookie refused to take a shift with anyone on the list. Memos flew. Phones rang. And then, the crack. Officer Dale Horton, one of the names on the list, asked to speak with Marcus privately. When he sat down, he didn't make excuses. "I was reckless," he said. "I thought no one was watching. But they were. And I deserve to be called out." Marcus watched him carefully. "Why now?" "Because maybe this department finally has a shot at being what it pretends to be." Marcus nodded. "Then help us get there." Horton stood. "I will." That night, Gloria Hall appeared on local television. She sat beside a bookshelf, hands folded, eyes steady. "My son is not perfect," she said. But what he's doing, it matters. Because the only thing worse than injustice is pretending it doesn't exist. She didn't cry. She didn't raise her voice. But by the time she finished, the anchor was speechless. And viewers were already sharing clips across the country. The backlash came fast. Anonymous threats. Vandalized property. Social media campaigns painting Marcus as a traitor. But for every post like that, 5 more offered support. This is what real leadership looks like. I don't trust cops. But I trust him. This is how we change things. At 11:42 p.m., Marcus sat alone in his office. A new envelope had been slipped under the door. Inside, a report from 2017. A missing audio file. A name not on the original list. And a note, "You missed one." He stared at it, cold settling in his bones. Not because it was a surprise, but because it proved the rot went deeper than he thought. Filled Cole. "Tomorrow," he said, "we start again. There's an 8th name." The envelope was thin, almost too light to hold anything important. But Marcus knew better. He turned it over once, then again. No return address. No markings. But the handwriting on the front was unmistakable, sharp, angular, rushed. He'd seen it scrawled across decades-old duty rosters and questionable disciplinary reports. It was the handwriting of someone who thought faster than they wrote. Someone who never thought they'd be caught. Inside was a single sheet of paper. A name. A badge number. And 3 dates. All attached to one man. Corporal Daniel Creel. He hadn't been on the original list of 7. But maybe he should have been the first. The list described incidents spanning 5 years. Excessive force against a minor. Fabrication of evidence. Unjustified detention with no charges filed. All 3 cases had been quietly dismissed. All 3 had been logged as minor discrepancies. And all 3 bore the same final notation. Resolved internally, no further action. Except now, someone had sent them straight to Marcus. No return address. No signature. Just truth finally clawing its way out of silence. Marcus sat in his office long after the sun went down. Coffee cold. Eyes locked on a flickering monitor. He searched the department's internal server for Creel's files. Nothing came up under formal investigation logs. No case attachments. No discipline. But when he checked archived shift schedules, Creel's name showed up like clockwork, on every incident tied to the 3 dates. He wasn't just there. He was always the only one there. Marcus moved to the basement archives. The old filing cabinets creaked open like tombs. After an hour, he found a box marked K-Series, 2015 to 2020. Inside, radio logs, handwritten reports, a few faded photos, and a disc. CDR//traffic stop, November 2nd, 2017 / Officer Creel. He slid it into his jacket pocket. In the squad room, he used the oldest working desktop, the only one with a disk drive. The video began without audio. A black sedan pulled over on a rural road. The timestamp flickered, 11:41 p.m. A flashlight beam hit the windshield. Officer Creel approached the car, weapon holstered but hand near it. The driver, a young black man in his early 20s, rolled the window halfway. No dialogue. Just Creel gesturing aggressively. Then the driver stepped out. Creel shoved him against the car. No struggle. No hesitation. The passenger door cracked open. A teenage girl. Hands raised. Face frozen. Creel yelled, then cut the dashcam. Static. And a file. Marcus stared at the screen. Froze the moment the girl's face became visible. Eyes wide. Silent. He closed the program. Made a call. By 9 a.m., Corporal Creel was in the internal review room. He didn't ask why. He didn't even sit. Marcus stood across from him. Cole beside him. A printout of the complaint on the table. The disc beside it. "You recognize this date?" Marcus asked. Creel shrugged. "Been a while." "You were the only officer on the scene. It was a minor traffic violation. No big deal." Marcus leaned forward. "The footage tells a different story." Creel finally sat down. Arms folded. "I was doing my job." Your job doesn't include turning off department-issued dashcams mid-stop. It malfunctioned. Cole slid the maintenance logs across the table. No reports of any malfunction for that unit, before or after that date. Creel's jaw flexed. Marcus spoke slowly. You're being suspended. Effective immediately. The case is being reopened and referred to the state. Creel stood, knocking the chair over. You're making a mistake. No, Marcus said. I'm correcting one. Just after noon, another printed sheet appeared on the department bulletin board. This one had one name. Corporal Daniel Creel, suspended pending investigation. And a handwritten note from Marcus. No justice without accountability. The reaction was immediate. Officers whispered in the halls. Union reps started circling. And the town took notice. That night, Marcus hosted an emergency community forum. The center was packed. Folding chairs in rows. People stood in the back. Others leaned against walls. A college-age woman stood. Her voice shook but didn't falter. My name is Jasmine Carter. In 2017, I was in the car Creel pulled over. She held up a printed still from the video, her own terrified face, paused forever in that grainy footage. I was 15. My brother was driving. He didn't fight. He didn't raise his voice. Creel slammed him down anyway. He was bruised for a week. Couldn't eat without pain. The report said he was combative. She looked straight at Marcus. No one believed us. And then she looked at the crowd. Until now. There were no cheers. Only silence. And tears. Later, on the porch swing, Marcus sat beside his mother. She rocked slowly. Knitting in hand. I remember Jasmine, she said quietly. Used to sell lemonade by the church. Marcus didn't respond. Gloria patted his hand. Truth takes time, baby. But it don't forget. The next morning, Marcus implemented a sweeping internal policy. All use of force incidents to be independently reviewed by a civilian board within 30 days. He didn't hold a press conference. He posted the new rule himself, laminated it, and taped it to the wall beside Creel's name. One woman paused to read it, whispered, about time, and walked away smiling. It was only a matter of time. The mayor called at 6:42 a.m. The kind of call that doesn't start with hello, just breath and urgency. Chief Hall, we need to talk. Now. Marcus had been expecting it. The second Creel's name hit the public list, the second Jasmine's video testimony began circulating online, this moment became inevitable. And not because of justice, but because of optics. At 7:30, Marcus walked through the double glass doors of City Hall. Aides buzzed like bees in the corridors, clutching coffee and agenda binders. The mayor's assistant waved him in before he even reached the reception desk. Inside the office, Mayor Evelyn Lasker stood at the window, arms crossed, eyes on the skyline. She didn't turn to greet him. You know what I've spent the last 12 hours doing? She asked. Marcus didn't answer. Taking calls from the DA. From council members. From our friends at the Chamber of Commerce. Do you know how many wanted to talk about policy? Still, Marcus said nothing. She finally turned around. Her eyes were tired, her tone clipped. 0. Not one. They all wanted to talk about you. Marcus remained standing. If you're here to ask me to slow down, I can't. I'm not asking you to slow down, she replied. I'm asking if you're prepared for what happens next. She gestured toward her desk, 2 stacks of printouts. One is letters of support from citizens. The other. She tapped the taller stack. Department grievances. Anonymous complaints. Staff morale concerns. Words like witch hunt and vendetta. Marcus stepped closer. With respect, Mayor, if exposing misconduct makes the guilty uncomfortable, that's not my problem. She didn't disagree. But she also didn't smile. I agree with what you're doing, she said carefully. But I have to protect this city. And this city is watching. Closely. Then came the pivot. There's a proposal going to the council floor Monday, she said. It's being drafted now. Marcus raised an eyebrow. What kind of proposal? A motion to establish an external oversight committee, not appointed by your office. Appointed by the council. He understood immediately. It was a leash. A move to dilute his reforms by tying them to bureaucracy. So they can bury the findings before they see daylight? The mayor didn't deny it. She only said, "They're nervous. You've rattled the wrong cages." Then maybe they needed rattling. I'm not arguing that. I'm telling you what's coming. Marcus sat. What's your play then? You called me in for something. Mayor Lasker looked at him for a long moment. I want to back you. But I need something stronger than a list of names and grainy footage. I need a systemic case. A pattern. Something undeniable. Marcus paused. You're asking for proof you can take to war. She nodded. Because if I go into that chamber Monday and defend you, I need to shut down every, but not all officers' speech before it starts. He thought for a moment. I've already started compiling a timeline. Names, incidents, internal cover-ups. There's a pattern of neglect stretching back a decade. It's not just about Creel. It's about the ones who protected him. She leaned forward. Then give me that file. Put it on record. Let's make the truth so loud it can't be twisted. Marcus nodded. You'll have it by Sunday night. Back at the precinct, Marcus called Cole into his office. I need a full timeline, he said. All cases flagged in the last 10 years that match a pattern. Excessive force, complaint filed, internal resolution, no external review. Cole blinked. That's a lot. I know. But if the mayor's going to stand up for us, we're going to give her everything. She nodded. I'll bring in 2 more analysts. By afternoon, the file was already 32 pages long. By midnight, it would be 71. Each page a reckoning. Each entry a life. Monday came. City Hall overflowed. News vans. Protesters. Retirees in lawn chairs. Students with cardboard signs. Truth over tradition. Inside, Marcus stood quietly in the wings as Mayor Lasker stepped to the microphone. She didn't start with pleasantries. She started with the file. My office received this report last night. 71 cases. All ignored. All buried. She paused. I stand with Chief Hall. And I reject the proposal to limit his reforms. Because oversight should not fear exposure. And justice should not fear daylight. The room held its breath. When the vote was called, 5 hands rose against the motion. 2 abstained. It failed. Later that night, Marcus sat alone in the squad room. The department was quiet. Too quiet. But he knew this was the silence before change, not retreat. Cole appeared in the doorway. You won, she said. He shook his head. No. The city did. She smiled. And the list. He looked down at the next name being added. Number 9. Still growing, he said. The morning after the vote, Ridge Point didn't just wake up, it caught fire. The headlines came fast. Mayor backs radical police reforms. Chief Hall sparks controversy with case audit. Cable news panels debated it. Local stations camped outside the sheriff's department. And on the town's Facebook pages, neighbors who once shared pie recipes now sparred over words like accountability and abuse of power. Inside the department, the mood had curdled. Whispers became muttering. Cold stares lingered longer. A line had been drawn. And some weren't hiding what side they were on. Marcus had seen resistance before. But this was different. 2 lieutenants called in sick. A patrol sergeant emailed his resignation with the subject line, "Political circus." Even Cole reported overhearing officers saying the chief was turning on his own. But it wasn't just words. It was behavior. Reports started slipping. Radios unanswered. Body cams forgotten. A kind of passive defiance was setting in. And Marcus knew this was the moment the real battle began. It came at 2:14 p.m. The power in the East Wing flickered, then cut out entirely. Dispatch was down. The server housing years of archived complaints, offline. Cole rushed in from the hallway. Sabotage, she asked. Marcus nodded grimly. Backup systems? Running. But it'll take hours to verify what's been affected. They both knew what that meant. Time for stories to change. Files to vanish. Faith to erode. That night, a town hall meeting turned chaotic. Dozens packed into the community center. Supporters of reform wore black ribbons. Opponents held homemade signs, "Keep politics out of policing." An elderly woman stood up, voice quivering but firm. "My grandson was pulled over and called a thug. He's 12. A man across the aisle snapped, "Maybe teach him to respect the badge." A shouting match erupted. The mayor rose, pleading for calm. Marcus watched from the back, arms crossed. It wasn't just policy anymore. It was personal, emotional, explosive. The next morning, a video surfaced online. A clip from Marcus's internal meeting with Cole. Edited, spliced. It made him appear like he admitted to targeting white officers. The comments flooded in. Chief Hall's witch hunt exposed. Race-based policing, out of control. It was a smear campaign. And it was working. Even some moderate voices now hesitated. Cole barged into his office. "We traced the leak." "Who?" "Captain Harlan." "Of course. The same man who once said off record, 'We don't air family business in public.'" Marcus stood jaw tight. Draft his suspension. Today. But for every attack, a defense rose. A group of local mothers formed Voices for Justice. They posted videos of their own, stories of profiling, abuse, and silence. One featured Jasmine Carter, seated between her parents. "My voice was ignored once," she said. "Not again." It went viral. Even national outlets began to pivot. Not toward outrage, but toward curiosity. Could Ridgepoint be a model for reform? Late Friday night, a Molotov cocktail was thrown through a window at the mayor's office. No one was hurt. But the message was clear: escalation. Marcus met her outside the crime scene. The mayor's hands shook slightly, but her voice didn't. "This is what they do when they're cornered," she said. "Burn things down." He looked at the flames still licking the edge of the window frame. "Then we hold the line." By Sunday, state officials called for a formal inquiry into Marcus's leadership. A motion was introduced at the State House to review Ridgepoint's reform procedures. Some saw it as oversight. Others saw it as sabotage. Marcus saw it as a test. "How we respond now," he told Cole, "is what they'll remember, not just here, but everywhere." She nodded. "And if we survive it? Then maybe we light the way for someone else." The rain hadn't stopped for days. It was the kind of rain that soaked through skin and memory, that turned streets into rivers and made time feel slower. But for Marcus Hall, it didn't slow anything. Not today. The state inquiry was waiting. He stood under the gray morning sky, his boots planted outside Ridgepoint's sheriff's station, watching the drops snake down the windows like unanswered questions. The building looked tired. But it stood. So did he. He stepped inside, greeted by fluorescent lights and murmurs. The state board was already in the conference room, clipboards in hand. No nods. No smiles. Just pens, protocol and power. The room was clinical, air cold, eyes colder. Why bypass internal review? Why suspend officers without preliminary hearings? Why trust anonymous complaints? Marcus didn't flinch. His answers were measured but not mechanical. Because what's internal is often invisible. Because suspension isn't punishment, it's prevention. Because anonymity doesn't mean untruth. They scribbled. He stood. Then came Janine. Steady. Brave. Her voice didn't crack once. Then Cole. Relentless as ever. Her eyes dared them to blink first. Then Jasmine's mother. "I raised my daughter to speak up," she said, tears streaming. But when she did, they shut her down. Until Chief Hall listened. Not as an officer. As a human being. The room hushed. Some of the board shifted in their seats. Others glanced at each other, unsure of what to write. The board left without fanfare. No verdict. No statement. Just the hum of politics wrapped in procedure. Marcus sat alone in his office afterward, the weight of the day sagging in his shoulders. He looked at the photos on his wall, not the official ones but the personal ones. His wife. His daughter. A community vigil with candles for the 8th name. He stared at the candlelight frozen in the frame. So many flames had been extinguished before anyone even noticed they were burning. He thought of Evelyn Carter, drenched in injustice. He thought of the mayor, who stood when others bent. He thought of the people who stayed silent for too long, and those who would never speak again. And then he thought of himself. Was he the man he'd hoped to be when he took the badge? Was he enough? He didn't know. But he knew he was trying. And maybe, just maybe, that mattered. When the report arrived 2 weeks later, he read it once. Then again. No charges. No discipline. But also, no praise. Just a single line. Chief Hall's actions, while unorthodox, adhered to the ethical framework of necessary reform. That was it. He didn't frame it. He didn't need to. Because praise wasn't the goal. Truth was. Ridge Point changed. Not overnight. But in the quiet ways cities do when they've been shaken awake. A new intake officer. Younger. Kinder. A mural in the town square with all 9 names. Jasmine's op-ed printed in full in the local paper. Justice didn't knock on our door, she wrote. It walked in, wet and angry, and dared us to listen. The rain finally cleared on a Sunday. Marcus sat on his porch, coffee in hand, watching the sun try to reclaim the sky. Beside him, his daughter sat cross-legged. Did you win, Dad? She asked softly. He paused. No, he said. But I didn't let them win either. She nodded, thoughtful. You going back tomorrow? Yes. Even if they still don't like you? He smiled. Especially then. That night, he wrote a final note. Not for the board. Not for the mayor. Not even for the press. For Ridge Point. To every citizen who has ever felt unseen, I see you. To every voice that was silenced, I hear you. And to every badge that forgot what it stands for, I remember. He taped it inside the front lobby, right next to the camera, so it could never be ignored again. The next morning, the town hall filled with students. One girl, no older than 10, raised her hand. Why did that officer pour coffee on your friend's mom? Marcus paused, then knelt beside her. Because sometimes people forget the weight of their actions, he said. But it's our job to remind them. The girl nodded slowly. Did she get justice? Marcus looked her in the eyes. She got a voice. And sometimes that's even more powerful. If this story made you feel something, if it made you remember, question, or hope, then don't scroll away. Tell us what justice means to you in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that won't let you forget. Because silence protects power. But stories? They build it. Together. This isn't just a tale. This is a reckoning. And it's only just begun.